Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Kitty Coach YouTube channel. I am joined again today by the wonderful Jessianna Seville, joining us all the way from the National Kidney Institute of, no, I always call it the National Kidney Institute. I'm just making you this great big thing, Jessianna, rather than saying the Nutritional Institute.
We're just Kidney Nutrition Institute. You can abbreviate it KNI.
I just make you like this great big global organization every time. I think it's because of what you're doing. That's just how it is embedded in my mind. But Jessianna's joining us again, and I'm always so grateful for her expertise and time. Jessianna is a renal dietitian and really specializes in just people with kidney disease, really in prevention, definitely in preventing people from going on dialysis. She has an absolute interest in all things ketosis and looking at things like PKD. But, just before Jessianna and I hit record on this, I just love having a chat to you, Jessianna, because our brains work a bit the same. We're just talking about Ethiopia and why they've got a sudden rise in kidney disease through their maybe agricultural farming. And then we're looking at using peptides, and we're just so into the same interesting things of what all things we can do to really help people with kidney disease. And I think the other thing that I find really inspiring is that we're both starting to see that we can reverse late stages of kidney disease and we can prevent people going on dialysis, which really goes against the narrative that most people in the Western world are told about kidney disease. And that is where I think you and I have the same passion, that we really want to change that narrative. And
oh, totally. It's almost taboo to say you can reverse kidney disease, but there's enough success stories that you see that people can, at minimum stabilize, but really be able to see a lot of improvements.
Yeah.
And I just think our body has the ability to heal and get that, to if you get the right tools in place, whether it's supplements, diet, peptides, all the cool things that you can do. I do think that there's a lot of hope for people. You don't have to just end up on dialysis.
Totally. And I agree. And I think that's, talking to you and Dr. Israb and Dr. Camp and all these other amazing people that we've been in contact with. And I think we've all got a passion about changing the narrative around that. So
yeah.
While we're talking about all things that you can eat for lunch today with kidney disease, the basis behind everything we do is about changing this narrative. So I digress, but let's have a chat again today about food. And last time we spoke about all the things that you could do for breakfast. And so let's dive in lunch. Now, it's interesting because I know in the US, you were saying that people in the US really want lunch to be a quick meal. It has to be fast and easy and accessible. And I would say it's the same in Australia. If people are in the office and working, lunch is one of those meals that when people are busy, I've got to go and run, or I'm going to eat at my desk, or I've got the kids floating around and screaming and I've got to feed them. And so lunch is a very quick, offhand sort of meal. It's not like the dinner and the breakfast. So it's often maybe the harder meal out of all three to really get right. So let's just start with, how do you do it? What do you suggest to people? And just walk us through your suggestions that you're recommending.
Cool. Yeah, I'd love to do that. And I love being able to talk about food specifically and not just nutrients, right? Not just about potassium or phosphorus or protein. Yes. But when we really dig into food, that's the practical application. So for us, lunch, for some of our patients that fast, it's their first meal of the day, which gives it extra importance. For other people that aren't fasting, it's still a really critical meal where you can put in a lot of nutrients. And like we talked about last time, a happy kidney diet or happy, healthy kidney food is not always about what you take out. It's really about what you add in. So for us, one of the first things we talk with our patients is how we leverage that meal. That's not really surprising, but how do we leverage that meal for adding in, one, a lot more vegetables or fruit, and two, some sort of good mineral source like nuts or seeds for certain patients. And for us, we build off of the principle of a salad. Now, not everyone loves to eat a salad. A lot of people like it because it's fast and it's easy and it's full of lots of good, it can be full of a lot of good wholesome things. It can be often available even at a fast food place or whatever. So salad, something very familiar to people, but you can take the principles of a salad to a sandwich. You can take the principles of a salad to a wrap. You can even take the principles of a salad to soup or other really simple, familiar foods. And that's why we teach kind of that principle of how do you build a like happy kidney salad for yourself. So let me share my screen and I'll just kind of walk through some things that we think about with our patients with building a salad. And I hope this visual is helpful for people. You don't have to use all of this, but for us, again, it's visualizing all the things that you can put in your diet, all the things that are healthy, and that, just thinking about what we're adding in and why we're adding them in. And it's not just nutrition we want to add in, but I really think good nutrition also tastes good. And so we think about flavors as well. If you can delight in what you eat, you'll have a different relationship with it than if you're like, oh, I have to eat it because I have kidney disease. So we want really our food, when possible, to be delightful. So we talk about two different things. So one, obviously you have to have a base of some sort to a salad. If you're making a sandwich, a lot of times bread is like your base, but you got to have some sort of vegetable as the base. So you can either do a leafy vegetable or you can do something that's sturdier. You don't always have to have a leafy vegetable for a salad. There's a lot of really good chopped salads. That's actually one of my personal preferences, is to have a chopped salad because I can make it up, beginning of the week and eat it all week. You have to have something that really is like, the bulk of the salad. So it can be a leafy vegetable. It can be something sturdier, cucumbers or carrots. And you think of, in America, it's really popular, cucumber salads. That's a salad, right? It's not like a leafy salad. A lot of things. You can use fennel or bell peppers or grilled vegetables, but some sort of a vegetable for your salad. If a leafy salad is too light and it's like used to like meat and potatoes, you need something heavier, then you maybe choose something that's sturdier, so that you feel like it's heavier and more filling. Then we do something to bulk it up so it feels filling to you. We love vegetables. We love them so much. But for a lot of people, just eating a big bowl of vegetables doesn't leave you feeling super satisfied at the end. You can feel full, but you don't feel satisfied.
Yeah.
Plus these have a lot of really good different types of fibers. So sometimes that can be something like a grain that you put in a salad, or it can be something starchier, like some chopped sweet potatoes or some beans on there, or chopped squash, but something to bulk it up. If you're watching out for potassium, keep your potassium, your portion size a little bit smaller. Then we like to think of a texture. So if you got a base, you get something starchy, then you put a texture in there. Maybe you want a soft texture like roasted bell peppers. You can keep them in your fridge, just pull out a couple, put them on there. Maybe you want something crunchy, and so you just do a little bit of corn on there, or you do some water chestnuts. I really like water chestnuts, and they're super crunchy. And you could put a vegetable on like that as well. Then if you want to add some flavors, of course, adding in like a fresh herb. If you had like some basil or dill, and the herbs are really good anyways, just on a health standpoint, can be an amazing addition. You can sprinkle some spices over the top. We have some people that like to use a little bit of nutritional yeast on the top. It's got an amazing profile as far as B complex, and it gives a really good, like, different flavor to them. If you have something that's really savory and want to put just a touch of sweet in it, then that can be a really nice addition. A classic salad people think of when it's like sweet and savory is like a blue cheese and a cranberry. And like those flavors together, salty and sweet, people really look forward to something like that. But you can use the same type of principle. You don't have to, but it's ways to think about your salads. You're not just stuck with like leaves and dressing.
Yeah.
We love the principle of sour, something tart, because you don't need as much salt. So vinegars, I actually like an aged balsamic personally. That's my personal preference. We have a lot of people that love lemon, lime, our patients that come from a Hispanic background, they love doing like olive oil and lemon on their salads. That's what they're used to. It would be amazing. Maybe something bitter. Some of the spicier greens, arugula is actually something we recommend a lot to our patients. It's really high in nitric oxide, which is great for the vascular health and kidney disease. But any of these like kind of spicy ones, they have their own medicinal properties. Maybe something a little bit salty to just kind of balance out those flavors. I think olives are amazing for that. You don't need a lot to pack a whole bunch of punch.
No.
You know, even sauerkraut, right? Salty, but it's got a lot of probiotics. You don't need a lot to pack a whole bunch of punch. So I always include something like this in my my salad. Then the crunchy toppings people love, whether it's like toasted nuts we love, or maybe some croutons or toasted breadcrumbs, or you know, the sesame seeds. There's a lot of things you can do to add that crunch, and so it'll feel so much more satisfying. If you want something a little bit juicier, it's got a crunch, you can do pomegranates or pomelo or grapefruit or oranges on there, and then something creamy on there. A lot of people like to do a little bit of avocado, or I really like right now tahini, and they have squeeze bottles instead of having to scoop it out of the jar like peanut butter. You can squeeze some tahini on there, great source of calcium and other minerals, and then something strong flavored. So then either you find your own dressing. If it's very salty, we have people cut it with a good quality oil, or you can make your own at the beginning of the week and kind of keep it in the fridge. But we use these same principles, whether you're making a wrap or a sandwich or just something, a salad really quick. You can use these same principles of, I need a vegetable base. What am I going to do? And then what am I going to add onto it? And for us, with our patients, we go through this and we have them circle what they would want to put in there, and then they plan to have it in their pantry. But that's one way. You just, if you plan ahead for lunch, just a little bit of planning ahead, you're guaranteed, I'd say like 100% guaranteed to be successful, because you've already planned it. You got 10 minutes, you get your lunch, you're like, oh yeah, like I'm having a salad. So I'm just throw it together.
And what do you do, say, in winter when it's cold and people just like, I just don't feel like a really cold raw salad. It's, you know, a yucky day. And normally I'd be going for like a mac and cheese or a big fried burger with fries or something. You know, it's cold and I want to warm my body up. Then what would you do?
That's a super good question. Yeah, sometimes you really, that lunch in the middle of the day warms you up. Or if it's your first meal of the day, sometimes you want something hot.
Yeah.
So there's two things that we'll do with our patients is if they want like a soup. I mean, canned soups traditionally have so much salt in them, but you can do half a portion and then put like a lot of frozen vegetables in there, and maybe again use some of those same principles. How do I put something crunchy on it? Well, you know, what else can I add to like the base of the soup, and then heat it up, and you'll have some of the salt in there, obviously, but not as much, and you will have just totally like power packed it with other vegetables. So you can do something like that. Or we have some patients where if they don't have time to cook like a quick stir fry, then they'll either use a leftover to warm up. Leftovers are really good for lunch. Or they'll use a frozen meal, and then we help them learn, like, how do you watch out for too much preservatives? What should you look for on like the protein content and the salt content? And how do you even power pack a frozen meal so you really up level the amount of nutrients in it easily?
So let's dive into the frozen meals, because that, you know, being able to pull something out and chuck it in the microwave for some people is going to be really, really good. And of course, here at Kidney Coach and in the Kidney Disease Solution, we'd often be saying to stay away from that. But you know, we spoke earlier, and I know for me, there are much better quality meals on the market that you can get. One of the things I get, because I'm so busy with work, I've just been delivered, actually. I've got meals that come and they're totally organic. Yeah. I tell them exactly what I want. I don't, you know, I want no salt. You know, I want to put on weight. So there's, you know, I get like my not brown rice, my black rice in there, which is a seed and things like that. So there's all these things that you can get now, and I don't microwave it. I just heat it up on the stove. But there are so many great options now. There's something over there in the States that you recommend, or is there a way that if people are like, look, microwave meals are just super easy at work, I can just chuck it in while, you know, the meeting's going on and grab it out? How would you navigate that with people?
That's a good question. So yeah, they're probably same as Australia. There are tons and tons of meal delivery services now on the market, and there's some where it's like they deliver you the kit and then you cook it for dinner, and you know, like Hello Fresh, Blue Apron, and those are really nice. But if you need something that's one and done, there's also a lot of good ones on there. We use some like Daily Harvest, which is again organic. I can look at the ingredients. I know all the ingredients that are in there. I can look at the nutrition and figure out, does this have a lot of salt in it? And if it does, how does that balance in the day? But there's others where they'll customize it for what you want, and where plant-based diets are really, really big. A lot more people wanting to follow them. You can always find one to try and just see if that works out for you. If like worst of worst, I think the worst thing is you don't eat anything, but you're going to use a microwave meal. I use the same principle of, do I know, like, could I buy every single ingredient that I'm reading in this ingredient list?
Such a good.
And if I could, yeah, and it's not a chemical, then I'm just backing up and saying, well, how much salt did they put in it? And does it even have enough calories to fill me up? Because some of them you're like, oh, okay, it's not very much salt, but then it's like 100 calories. And you're like, oh, there's not very much here. But so, I mean, that would be the other principle that we would utilize.
And I love that too. I think that's such a great thing that we definitely teach, you know, just as, you know, as a naturopath, we always say to our patients, it's like, please don't eat anything if you don't know what's in it. So if you turn the packet over and it's, you know, a sulfam K first ingredient, and then it's a whole pile of chemicals, and then peas and a carrot, and then caramel flavor 206 or whatever it is, and you're like, there's 2 ingredients that I know and the rest I have no idea. Probably good suggestion that that's something that you shouldn't eat. And I always say too that when you turn a meal packet over and things like that, you don't really want a list of 1,000 different ingredients. Right. Less is more. And again, being able to know exactly what they are. There's a great company here in Australia called Life Plus. That's who I use. And they're great. Like, I go in and say, no gluten, no dairy, all organic, increased vegetables. I want this many calories. And, you know, that every week they send a sheet out, and then they call me and go, you okay with all of this? And then we put vegan cheese, like vegan cream on your sustainably found, like today for lunch, I'll have sustainably caught barramundi with some quinoa and heaps of vegetables and things like that. And I can look at every ingredient, and it's all ingredients that I would be putting in cooking myself. Do you have any companies or things that you're happy to recommend that do that over there, or
where they customize it in particular?
Oh no, I think you mentioned Pure Harvest was one, I think, or just one that people.
Daily Harvest is, they're totally plant-based, organic, and they come, you know, like it is, you can do it on the stove top or in the microwave, but it's all there. The flavoring is amazing. I really like the meals. I think they're really, really good. And just add a tiny bit of water and heat it up, and it's quite filling. And again, like, it feels good. And for our people that need more calories, I'll be like, just drizzle like some extra olive oil on it, and maybe you can put like some extra nuts on top if you want, you know, going back to principle of more crunch. Just a little bit of crunch. Or maybe you're gonna have some of that cracker that we talked about with it, or, you know, whatever. And we find like a food that can pair it with, or they'll have carrots on the side, or, you know, something else to kind of bulk out the meal. But yeah, Daily Harvest is one that we really like, though they don't customize the same way like the organization you're telling me about does.
Yeah, and I think too, what gets people into trouble with making poor food choices is a lack of time, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you find?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm projecting, but that's for sure me, right? If I'm busy, and I haven't thought ahead, I'm less likely to make a salad than if I've thought ahead and I'm like, oh yeah, like I have all the ingredients, I'll make it, versus like I gotta go get my kids from school, so I'm gonna just grab a granola bar, and it's totally different nutrient quality.
And I think that's the big thing, right? I think, one of my girlfriends, she's in construction and just works nutty hours. But every Sunday she does food prep, and she does this like
Yeah.
fresh where they deliver it and then give you all the recipes. And she just, on a Sunday at 2 o'clock, she sits down and does prep for the whole week, and then she freezes it all. And I think, there are definitely ways to get around that. It's just about, and if you've got kidney disease and you're looking down the barrel of having a transplant or dialysis, making time for food preparation and making that a priority, I think, is something that we just have to come to terms with. That if you're going to make a priority of having your hair done or going and having a massage, like food prep becomes equally, if not more so. And I think it's just something that's not embedded in our culture. Like fast
Yeah.
food has been such a big thing, and more so in the States and in Australia, I think. But, fast food, it's a whole industry turned
Yeah.
around fast with people that are time poor. And the reason that those industries do so well is because they can call it fast food because people don't have time. So I think that whole education and re-narrative around food should never be fast, and there are ways to do it, to make sure that you've got time on the weekend, and even just sitting down to enjoy your food. That's the other thing I think as a culture we've lost, that it's like, oh, I've got to get my 9 to 5 done, and in that time I'm going to shove some food in my face, where again, it's one of these things that I'm often re-educating patients about, is food is medicine. And when you went through that beautiful handout, I'm looking at, you've really presented it in such a beautiful way where it's so medicinal. And for people to understand that food, when it goes in, it is medicine. It is our first point of call of medicine. And when we treat it as such, and then we cook it and prepare it in such a way, it has such a different, I was going to sound woo-woo, but it has such a different energy about it when you treat your food as a medicine versus a fast food. And I think that whole education and re-understanding our relationship with food has such a different, or it's really powerful, I think.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And the thing that we talk a lot about at Kidney Nutrition Institute, it is like forefront in our mind all the time as we're making dietary changes, is how much food fear there is. And for us, as people make changes, we don't want to make that worse, right? We don't want to make food more scary and more restrictive and more in this place of like do or die. Like if I don't do it, then the worst thing's going to happen. If I do eat this, then the worst thing's going to happen. Like it just, food starts becoming very moral for people, being good or bad if they have kidney disease. And it's always powerful. Food is just really powerful. Nutrition's powerful. And I can never truly get over how amazing it is. But when you can re-embrace food as healing, it's not hurtful. It does. It changes the energy, and you can look forward to your meals. And it's, not everyone has to love cooking, but you can always, always love eating. Like you can enjoy what it does for your body and enjoy trying new things. It's a different experience than just like making sure you're not hungry all the time. But
Totally.
I'm just, yeah.
No,
So
I think that's, like you say, it's that whole changing our relationship to food, rather than it's something we have to have because we need to get through our day, versus when you've got something like kidney disease, or for myself, like with MS, when I eat, it's putting something in my body that, is it going to contribute to healing, or is it going to, make pathology and disease worse? That's generally how I look at it. And it's not about, like you said, it's not about making food fearful. I go, is the overall arching energy of this meal going to help me heal and give me life force, or is it going to take away? And I totally agree with the food fear stuff, because if you're fearful about your food, regardless of what it looks like, it's going to take energy away from the system. So it's whatever you can do to make sure that whatever you're putting in is actually adding and not taking away. And I think people forget that's how powerful food is. It will either add or it will take away. And when you've already got a system that's dealing with something like kidney disease or diabetes or elevated blood pressure, those things become even more important. And I think, that's the principle I generally say to people: is that meal in front of you life-giving or life-taking away? And that goes down to your belief about it, your fear about the potassium or the salt, or, because any emotion you have around that is going to add that. And so what is it that you can do to do that? Like yesterday, I had a crazy day with back-to-back meetings, but I'm someone that just doesn't eat if they get hungry, but I'm like, I have to eat. I'm just getting over this virus, like you and I are coughing away at the moment. And I'm like, I need something that will nourish my body. So I made a smoothie. It was a warm day yesterday because I didn't have as much time, but I made a big liter of it. And I packed it full of blueberries and a banana, and I put some spinach in there and some vegan cashew yogurt. And then I added some extra olive oil, and then I put some nut butter in there, and I put my plant-based protein powder in there that's all gut healing and immune based. And so when I sat and drank it, because that was easier for me to do, but I'm like, that's so life-giving and it feels really good, and all of those sort of things. So I think that they're my big principles as well. And again, that handout was so beautiful. And I wonder if you'd be happy to share that with us. I might add it to the, so people can download the file, because it's such a beautiful, I just love that idea of building and people, I don't know, there's something really cool about, I'm going to add some crunch, and now I'm going to add some salt and
something salty and sweet. A lot of good things you can add.
And it's fun. It's like when you go to, I don't know, like a Subway salad bar and you're adding your toppings. It's like you get to do that for yourself. And so, and especially if you've got kids, like I imagine your kids would love doing something like that, of adding all of those different textures and things, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it can be, I think it can be fun. And maybe you look at that and it looks like, oh, this is really fun because look at how many new ideas. And that's where you're at, then that's great, right? Just pull a few new ideas to make your food fun again. If it looks overwhelming, it's like, man, I have never made a salad ever. You just start and do one level up, right? You don't have to reach perfection to have progress. So even if it's just like, maybe I won't, and I do think honestly, every food can fit sometimes, but when you're in a healing process with kidney disease, I think you have to be really cautious with fast food. Honestly, that's just my opinion. If it's like a deal breaker for my patients, we can talk through best options, but as much as possible, we're trying to get away. But maybe you can do something a little bit better. Maybe it's not fast food, but it's a frozen meal. Or maybe it's fast food, but it's a salad and you have the dressing, so it's not as much salt. Like you can always up level your choice just a little bit more. And then adding in that perspective of trying new things, it makes fun. Yeah. And I think fun to do with your family or your kids and try new things.
And I think fun's such a good word. I think that, I think we've just lost that whole tradition, and because our lives, we've got fast food because we've got fast lives, right? And I think part of healing, and definitely it's been the journey for me with my autoimmune disease, is I can't live fast. And hence why my walking slowed down. For me, it's all been about slowing my life down and sitting down to enjoy my meals and things like that. And I think dis-ease, whatever that is an opportunity for us to slow down and reconnect with our bodies and reconnect with what we're putting in there, rather than living this life that's sort of so out there. And I think that's the opportunity that any disease gives all of us to do. And food is such a
absolutely. That's been my experience personally too, is it made me stop and be like, oh, I need to take better care of me. And that ended up being very joyful. You think, oh, these things I have to give up. But in the end, you're actually kind of super happy to offload a few things and build things into your life that make you feel good, like more sleep. or, like anything like
Yeah.
that.
And isn't
So
that the point of life? Like they talk about all these people that get to their deathbed and no one's wishing that they worked harder. That is not a wish that any of us are going to have on
yeah,
their deathbed. It's more time with friends and family, enjoying all of those sort of things. So if you can help your food bring more joy, which looking at your handout, that makes me feel joyful. Maybe that's
good.
my naturopath in me, but I'm like, that looks like so much fun. And like you say, even if you just do one level, some, leafy greens and add some crunch and then make your own dressing. Just start there. Like that's not too hard and it's fun and you take the power back into your own healing. I think that's a fantastic thing to do.
Yep, totally agree.
Now, did you want to add anything else about all things lunch?
I don't think so. I think the only thing I'll just give a shout out to, which I usually do, is on PKD. A lot of people are fasting if they're not doing keto for PKD, and that first meal when you break your fast is really an important meal to make sure that you get get a good round of nutrients with some protein and some fat, and even just a little bit of carbohydrate too. But it's so important, if you're breaking a fast at your lunchtime, that meal in particular is one I feel like that you're thoughtful about and you cherish. You don't just rush through it and then wait till dinner. That's the only other thing that I feel like I really try and coach my patients on, is how can we make that break the fast meal really quality.
Great. And is there anything actually around PKD and ketogenesis, with anything that you had in there with just that you would slightly alter for people with PKD, or where they need to be like that? Is there any parts of the toppings or crunch or things that people need to be more mindful about if they are worried about the ketogenic part of it?
It's a good question. So, if you're looking at ketosis and obviously heavy carb foods, we try and swap out. So if you're thinking something starchy, instead of sweet potatoes, we would do like roasted cauliflower, because cauliflower ends up still feeling heavy, even though it doesn't have as many carbs. Or we would use if we're going to still use like a noodle, we might use a shirataki noodle. If people are going to use like a noodle or something starchy, we try and find a starch replacement that doesn't have a lot of carbs. That's probably the first thing. And then the other thing that I see people get caught on sometimes if they're in ketosis is they don't watch their dressings, and they end up having little sneaky carbs get into their dressings, and that really will knock them out of ketosis. And then other than that, it's just being aware of where some of those really high oxalate foods might fit in. So instead of doing a big spinach base, we have pretty much all of our patients with PKD avoid spinach kind of across the board because it's so high in oxalates. Then you would switch to a different type, radicchio, arugula, romaine. There's like every other lettuce, but spinach works really well because it doesn't have as many oxalates. Or making sure you don't have slivered almonds for a topping. And like those are really simple changes to make. And I cannot tell you how many patients we've had with PKD that they're like, I eat spinach salad every day because I thought it was so good for me. And spinach is a wonderful food, but I feel like where we're still understanding more about how oxalates fit with PKD, it's so easy to swap out. And so we just have our patients swap it. Like there's no reason on our side to include it because there are a lot of other great greens that have a similar nutrient content.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. Anything else that you think we've missed?
I don't think so. I hope I really hope that people found that was helpful. And I say like the big kind of takeaway principles are, if fast food is your go-to for lunch, start there with what you can swap it out for. And sometimes it's either I choose to give more time to my lunch, or I choose to find a new and better option. But I say if that's your go-to, to be able to cut that out. If that's not the main thing, I'd say the other takeaway is thinking about where do you add more vegetables in, and there's so many different ways you can do it, but how do you add more vegetables into your lunch using kind of those principles of building a salad?
Amazing. Jessianna, thank you again for your time and your expertise and all of this. If you want to find out more, you can Google Kidney Nutrition Institute. I'll always put the website down below. Jessianna works with a full team of renal dietitians if you want to get hold of her. They do online consultations as well if you want to go in and work with them in person. If you want to know more about what we do, head over to www.kidneycoach.com and you'll see the kidney disease solution in there. We've got a dietary plan in there as well. Jessianna and I are definitely going to work together, and we're going to get some clinical trials going early next year, which is really exciting. And we've got some other cool stuff in the pipeline of just new things that are coming through in medicine all the time that we're trying to stay at the forefront on. So I feel very blessed to have you as in our integral team now, and getting this message out that potentially kidney disease is reversible, especially if we can find the driver of the disease. I think that's the big thing, right? And that's what makes it so individual, and why working with people like Jessianna and her team to really individualize things makes such a difference, and why we set up the kidney disease solution the way we did. You know, there isn't one size will fit all. It's about finding the driver and really treating that. So I always feel very grateful for your time, Jessianna, and thanks again. Remember, if you want to now hear about all things dinner, which will be next time, make sure you hit subscribe, and then you'll get notified anytime that we produce any new content. Remember to go and check out Jessianna's website. Go check out kidneycoach.com. Thanks again for being part of our community. And if you have any comments, leave them below. I'll always get back to you. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, thanks again. Thanks, Jessianna.
Thanks for having me. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.